I'd kind of like to make something clear about what I teach because I get comments from people that are seemingly argumentative, but I don't really know. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Maybe they're just trying to help me understand their religion or their philosophy or their spiritual foundation being ground in Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma or whatever, because that's a lot of what I dwell on. And a lot of times they try to correct me by saying, well, according to the Vedas or this or that or whatever the case may be, you don't understand them correctly or whatever. And so what I'd like to do is clarify that a little bit. And one of the things they take issue with, because they think I'm Christian or something, and that because I do talk about that a lot, and I do believe the teachings of Christ, and et cetera, et cetera. But I wouldn't be able to join any Christian religion without being excommunicated in a short order, because that too is just like your religions in India and the Middle East and stuff like that. And the reason is because like I've been saying lately, Shiva is the devil or Lucifer or whatever. And they object to that, and thinking that I have some proclivity towards this particular God that is preached about in the Holy Bible. But I'm here to tell you that in the Holy Bible, Abraham is the author, if you will, or the one that started the Judaic religion. And, it is said that he spoke with God and blah, blah this and blah, blah that. And 3,000 years later or 1,000 years later, we have the Jews and their religion and their teachings and everything. But Abraham, the God that he spoke to, is the same that those in India spoke to. It's the same Shiva. It's the same Lucifer, Satan. The God of the Holy Bible is Satan. And it always has been. Every enlightened master that has spoken or had communication with God to clarify what things are, it's only valid in their life while they still draw breath. After that, the jackals move in and take over those teachings or religions for their own reasons. It's corruption, and that's what happens. There is no religion, there is no faith on this planet that that doesn't have the foundation of Satan. All of them do. Every single one does. So don't think that I'm just picking on you. Every religion, every faith, every teaching on the planet is that way. The God of this world is Lucifer. And so I wanted to clarify that with you, that I'm not just picking on you. I'm not. They're all the same in that regard. But they all teach about other things too, and there's so much good in all those teachings and all those Vedas and all those scriptures and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's just so much good in all of them that you can take away. I'm not saying throw it all away just because it's corrupt at its foundation. There's still a lot of valid stuff in all of their spiritual stuff that will help you. But I wanted to tell a couple short stories because I grew up Christian-based. And I had been studying, but when I say study, it's different than most people. And the reason is because I didn't realize until after I was married in my early 20s that I was severely dyslexic. And so it was extremely difficult for me to read and study. But I'm extremely good at recalling experiences. Terrible at reading. I'm pretty good at reading now because I've been at it my whole life. But I'm still extremely dyslexic. That just doesn't go away. You just have to learn to deal with it. So God has communicated with me in experiences in my early life and up to this day. And that's why I'm so much different than other people. And so to me, it's been an advantage because rather than going and getting a PhD in religion or et cetera, I would not excel very well in that area. So instead, I went directly to the source that created this world and this universe and everything. And so I'll tell you a little story. For instance, my brother-in-law, I got married when my wife was 18 and I was 1 month into 20. We were very young. And but I met her when she was 16 years old. And we were both in high school. And her brother was like about 10 years old when I met him. And obviously we were good friends throughout our life. Now, he passed away a few years ago, but he advanced along the spiritual path also. That's where his heart was. But he was a very intelligent guy. He was in the military and he went to college and he learned about electrical engineering. And he was a handful of electrical engineers that worked for Intel in Beaverton, Oregon, that designed the Pentium CPUs. Very smart guy, very smart guy. Well, he eventually gave that up. Well, he made a lot of money, so he was able to do that. And he got his degree in divinity and became a Baptist preacher. And not like a normal Baptist teacher. He was, preacher. He had a really golden heart in him. And so one day, him and his wife were at my mother-in-law's home. And they wanted to know why I kept posting negative things toward Christianity and such. And he was devout that the Holy Bible is the Word of God. I mean, it is the Word of God. And trying to teach him a lesson, which obviously did not go well, I took his Bible and I said, "This is what I think of your Bible." And I threw it on the ground and I said, if I had a can of lighter fluid, I'd light it on fire and then I'd piss on it to put the fire out. That's what I think of your Bible. And because it's the Bible of Satan. And of course, that didn't go over well. But I was just trying to teach him a lesson. And because he loved me, because I've known him since he was 10 years old, he asked me sometime later, months later, why are you so hard-hearted against the Bible? What is your problem? Because I think you're a spiritual person. And I told him, I said, Jack, the Bible to me is the greatest book that has ever been written. It has the greatest content of spiritual teachings. That is the most valuable book in my life that I've ever read. And I've read many, the Vedas, everything. And he was obviously confused at the time. But that's the contrast of reality. You're not going to find what I teach in a book. I was wholeheartedly involved in Christianity. And at the end of Christianity, it took a few years going away from Christianity before my wife decided, because like doing that thing with the Bible, I did that kind of stuff with my wife, and she was extremely spiritual also. And she questioned me about these things, And eventually she became disillusioned with going to church because of the things I kept teaching. And of course, that struck me as hard. And I thought, why is she falling away from the church, so to say? At the time, I was the high priest teacher. I taught the pastors and all that kind of stuff. And so I spent a couple years studying everything I could to help her understand what I knew about God and everything, to try to help her. And in the end, I realized, I found out that she was right and I was wrong. And that was where I stepped away from organized religion. And that was probably 15 years ago or more. But I kept on that path and met with gurus and everything else under the sun, because I knew because I've had, as I said before, dyslexia. I've had experiences that are undeniable. Some people ask me on my videos, where do you get this stuff? I mean, did you have a near-death experience? Do you take DMT, et cetera, et cetera? No. I have used hallucinogenic entheogens back when I was a teenager, but I gave that up because I was a professional firefighter, and that was my path that I wanted to go on. And obviously Christianity is not accepting of that sort of thing. So I gave it all up. But so I went that path, and eventually I found it all to be wrong. And that was extremely hard for me to take, extremely hard. And so, again, reiterating, I started going everywhere else to try to find the truth. And then I looked at things that had happened in the past 15 years prior to that were experiential, that I didn't understand what they were at the time. And then it started to make sense to me. For instance, this is the way my life goes, and it's bizarre beyond belief. So one day I was at the fire department and I was reading, and I had been trying to study the beginnings of how we came into existence, the essence, our souls, how we came into existence. And I had been studying off and on, along with all my other studies, for the better part of 20 years, trying to find an answer to this. And of course, I couldn't find anything. And one day at the fire department, I was reading a book that I had been reading for probably a week already. And when I say at the fire department, it's because at the fire department, you do your normal house duties, this, that, and everything else. And then 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, your time is your own until you go home the next day at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I had 25 plus years of a lot of study time. Well, anyways, I was reading a book and I was studying, and it was at nighttime, and that's where I normally did my studies, in my bunk room. And I had the light real low, and I'm reading, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. And being a instructor in the church I went to anyways, I knew how to prepare for lessons, and I had my yellow highlighter out and my marking pencil, and I was one line after another. And this carried on for 4 or 5 pages of this book, and it was like, wow, I finally found the stuff I was looking for. This is it. This is like unbelievable. So next day, 7 o'clock in the morning, I go home, and I tell my wife about this wonderful experience, and she goes, wow, would you please bring the book home? I want to read it. And I go, well, I'm only halfway done with the book. She says, I don't care, bring it home. Next shift, bring it home. And I said, okay. So of course, my next shift at the fire department, I looked at my highlighted stuff, and it's like, whoa, this is gobbledygook. This doesn't mean anything, what I read the shift before. It's like, why did I highlight this stuff? And I did bring the book home to my wife, and she looked at it and she said the same thing. This isn't what you were telling me the other day. This doesn't say anything of what you told me it means. And it's like, oh my gosh, what happened here? Well, I didn't understand that the Creator, God, can communicate with people in spite of their inabilities to learn or whatever. And of course, that has stuck with me to this day. I don't lose those sorts of things. I remember vividly what I had read that day. These sorts of things have happened to me hundreds and thousands of times over my lifetime. And so what I'm telling you is that wasn't written anywhere in the book, and it isn't taught anywhere in the world. So the things I teach, you can't, if you want to say, well, you don't understand it right, that's because your God isn't God. Your God is a book. Your God is black ink that is on the pages of a book. That's what you pray to. That's what you worship. You don't worship God because you think God is something other than what God is. And when I say God, that's a generic term because God is just like the term general. You could say the president is the lead general of the entire country or whatever. But you don't say general. You say like Bill, General Bill or General Smith or whatever. General is general. God is the same way. It's just a classification of a deity. There could be high deities, low deities, whatever the case may be. I just use the word God because there is no name for the Creator God. Now in Hinduism, they use the word Brahma as the Creator God. And that's accurate, actually. And Vishnu as a lower God. And Vishnu is the same thing as Christ or Jesus in the Jewish thing or in the Christian thing. And Shiva is the same as Lucifer or Satan or whatever. And I use those words interchangeable. I've explained this before. But in a pre-existent form, when I say pre-existent form, I mean before you were ever born onto this earth as a human being, you have a name, okay? So the name of Lucifer was his name. And then when he was on this earth, as the god of this earth, he took on the name of Satan. And then the name of the devil is just cast here and there. That was an invented word. So everything has, different names from when they existed prior to being here. So that's why I use that name interchangeably. So, yeah, I wanted to clarify that if you want to continue to try to correct me, you're going down the wrong path because my God is not a book. My God is not a religion. There is no teaching on the planet at this time that teaches what I teach, nor can there be, because they come from organized systems, and all organized systems get corrupted as soon as the enlightened master takes his last breath. I mean, because he's not there to correct ignorance anymore. As soon as he's dead, that connection to the source or to the Creator is gone. It no longer exists. And so when clarification comes out and somebody says, well, what did he mean by that? Well, unless you're another being that's enlightened, connected to the source, which there never is, there's no way to know what that person said. All you're going to get is generalities. So when I open the scriptures, the Holy Bible, and I read about what supposedly was said by Jesus, decades, if not hundreds of years after he died. Am I to assume that that's exactly what he said? Well, if I'm an ignorant fool, I can assume that's what he said. But I'll at least read it, and then there's a general theme of what was taught, and that's the good part of it. And then, of course, you have to weed out the stuff that isn't true. But you're not going to know if it's true or not unless you have contact with the source. But maybe 90% of it's good and true. That's why it's always good to study all of these faiths, all of these religions. They're all good. I mean, Sanatana Dharma is one of the best, if not the best, that I have found on the planet today. When I say ancient Hinduism, and I do mean ancient Hinduism, a lot of people say, oh, well, Hinduism is not a faith. It's just a made-up word or whatever. It's actually the true thing is Sanatana Dharma. Well, you can say what you want, but Sanatana Dharma is just a dialect of the ancient teachings of Hinduism, irregardless of whether you have PhDs and you say that. It isn't true. And the ancient Hinduism teaches about Vishnu and Krishna and all these things that are not understood well. And I'd like to end on, and I've covered this before too, Advaita. The word Advaita is almost never given alone. It's always connected to Vedanta. And I've explained this numerous times. Vedanta is the entirety of the Vedas and all those teachings and everything, the entirety. So when people say, well, this is what Advaita means, do you even know what Advaita means? Do you have the full understanding of all the Vedas contained in a single idea and thought with nothing that conflicts with anything in any of the Vedas? And if it's all held together in a single thing, then that's what Advaita is. But the problem is nobody understands that. They just take a single thing and it's not two, and they go, well, that's non-duality. Pure ignorance. But that's how this world is. This world is headed by the god of this world, which is Shiva, the devil, Satan, Lucifer, call him what you will. And it's all designed for that purpose, is to corrupt and to, Shiva is not about destroying you or anything like that. No, not at all. Shiva is about trying to teach you what he thinks is true, what he thinks is real. And what he thinks is real and true is different from what Christ taught. The two are, I won't say opposite, they both are teaching towards the same God, the same creator. They're both teaching the same, the goal is the same for both of them. They just have a different path of getting there. And neither one, it takes faith to know which one is going to lead to the culmination of being one with the Creator God. And it is my, not belief, but my knowing that the path that Christ taught is the true path, and the path that Shiva teaches is not going to get you where the path that Christ leads. They're going this way, yes, but one is going to be one with God, the other is not. And one will dissolve back into Brahman, and the other one will be one with the Creator, Brahma. That's the way it is. So I hesitate to say this last thing, but just to give you another clue of how my life is, and it's bizarre to say the least. I had a revelation, I don't know, maybe a few years ago, several years ago. about, it was interesting. It's like people talk about DMT, the experience can last a lifetime in just a few minutes. I had something similar to that, but again, it was a revelation or a vision, and so I didn't need any entheogen for that. And I experienced 1,000 kalpas of time and ended up one with God. And God asked me the question, or not the question, but put before me, I'm tired. Would you please take the reins and you be the God of all gods and the creator of all creators, and I will fall back because you're qualified and that's what I want you to do. Well, my choice was, I had thought about it, and it's like, I would rather not exist. I would rather go back to outer darkness in Brahman rather than take the lead, because the only thing that keeps me going is your love that you give to me, God. That's the only thing that has value to me. And if you're not there to give that to me because you're down here or whatever you do, there's no joy. There's no joy in life or existence or whatever. So I can't do that. And then at that particular time, God told me, wow, that was a good choice you made, and you passed the test. And for several years, I thought it was a test because that's what the revelation was to me. And I was tooling that over in my head last night, and I woke up at midnight and I looked at the clock, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning before I realized what had taken place, because I wasn't asleep. That's why my eyes are all, bad, because I didn't get very much sleep last night. And in that 3-hour period, that same scenario kind of took place. And the clarification was, no, it was not a test. It was the real thing. Had I chosen to take the place of God, God would have given that to me. God would have become nothing. God would have dissolved into Brahman and have become nothing again. And I would be the God of all gods. He was willing to do that. Now, did he know I would not do that? Well, of course, because he's God. But nevertheless, he made it crystal clear that that was what he was willing to do. So it wasn't a test where, oh gosh, you chose that, you fail, sorry, you don't get to be one with me because you failed that test because you're greedy and everything. No, that's not the way the test was. It wasn't that at all. It was truly real. Had I chosen that, he would have stepped down. That is the validity of what has to take place to become one with God. Well, of course, I didn't know that, because for the last several years, I just thought it was a silly test like everyone thinks it is. Well, when I say everyone that thinks it is, nobody's ever actually had that experience except me that I know of. Anyways, that's how weird I am. Yeah, I'm off the charts weird. I do not teach what other people teach. That doesn't mean I'm ignorant of what other people teach. I've been studying for the better part of over 50 years, all religions, all faiths. I'm fascinated with Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma and all of these things. Judaism I've studied in depth and everything. And so I'm very well versed in all of them. I don't necessarily have an instant recall to the exact verse and this and that, because as I said, that's not the way my brain works. But if you were to tell me a verse or whatever, then yes, it'll recall the experience of understanding it and reading it. So yeah, I'm aware of it. But the reason I disagree with what you think I'm trying to teach you is because I'm not trying to teach you the corrupt teachings of the world. That's not what I'm trying to do. And even if you were to believe me, and even if you were to follow me as a devotee or anything like that, there isn't anything I could do to convey to you what I know to be true. All I could do is put you on the path and say, this is the way you have to go to get the same thing I have. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. That's all I can do. And that's all, if you think about it, all enlightened gurus will tell you the same thing. You're never going to get what they teach. These gurus that teach hundreds, if not thousands of people, they're not enlightened. Not a single one in the world is enlightened. And the reason is they can't be. It's not possible to have that many followers and be enlightened. It's not possible. Because if you were enlightened, what you teach would be so controversial that nobody would follow you. Think about it. All the religions and faiths of the world draw you in. There's thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions and billions of people that join these groups and organizations and everything. But the true teachings of the source of all truth is so disagreeable to what is taught that they fall off. Nobody likes it. Nobody follows it. That's why Jesus said he was so alone in the world. That's why all of these people talk that way. The reason they're alone is not because they choose to be alone. It's because nobody follows them, because what they teach puts you on your own. You can't attach yourself to this, that, or whatever. There's nothing to attach to. Nothing. If you're going to attach to God, that attachment is no attachment. Anyways, thank you for listening. I appreciate all of you. I love you regardless of whether you think I'm off the beaten path or whether you disagree with me or not. Because what I teach is not necessarily for this world. What I teach you right now is for possibly a next lifetime after you die and reincarnate, because everything is forever. So what I teach you today, even if you disagree with it, it sticks with you into your next lifetime. And then you don't have to recall being taught by this crackpot that didn't believe any of the scriptures and everything. Nevertheless, it'll be in your spirit and it'll be in your soul. And then you'll recall it as you grow up and you're 15 years old and you go, something seems true to me. And it's because you were taught or you listened to this video in a former lifetime. It never escapes you, never. And so that's why I teach what I teach. Because if you're going to be one with God, we're all going to be friends in that realm anyways. Regardless of whether we are close friends in this life, we will be in the end. And that's the way I see it. And if you're not, and if you follow Satan or Lucifer or Shiva, that's your prerogative. That's the freedom afforded all of us in this particular reality. Anyways, thank you for watching and have a good day.